Hello, I'm Crystal Dawn Rios, and I'd like to welcome you to our Foundation for Conscious Living's Big Leap Home online programs. These programs support individuals, organizations, and communities in generating agency and connection and creativity on our shared planet. This call that you're on tonight is one of the ways we do this. And I have a few logistics to go over before I begin. I invite you to join our Big Leap Home Network if you haven't already, which is an online gathering space for the Hendricks community. And it's here at Mighty Networks where you can connect with the community, connect with Katie, hear about the latest events, and find Hendricks tools and practices that you can use in your daily life. And I will put the link in the chat for you if you have not joined Mighty Networks. Ta-da! All right, well, thanks everybody for saying yes, having a full body yes to looking at boundaries and agreements. And I had the, I guess, intuition or the guidance or that inner calling to offer this Big Leap Bridge when I got invited. I was like, what do I want to talk about? What am I most interested in lately? And I wear a lot of hats. I'm a Big Leap coach. I am a massage therapist. I am a teacher, a yoga teacher and yoga teacher trainer. I have been doing some computery work over the last few years since 2020, like some bookkeeping, money coaching, and some project management work at a marketing firm where I have, who would believe it, but a bunch of massage schools as my clients. So so I was speaking with a colleague and they were talking about like, oh, I really need to work on my boundaries. I really need to like, with the person that shares their office space, like I'm always cleaning the floors and I do more than my fair share of the cleaning, and I pay more rent and I see less people here. And so there was all of this like kind of, a little, some flags for me. And I was like, I want to talk about agreements and how I've pretty much, taken Katie's lead and moved away from focusing so much on boundaries and really like inviting everybody around me in all my jobs to make really clear agreements. And yeah, so are you all willing to have a good time tonight looking at the difference between boundaries and agreements? Give me a thumbs up, or if you don't have your camera on, you can like digital thumbs up or put in the chat. Look, we made an agreement. Look how easy agreements are. Yeah, the coaching, the coaching contract that we use with Big Leap Coaching Training is basically like the first set of agreements that you can make with people. Like, are you willing to learn and discover what you most want and need to learn and discover in the realm of boundaries and agreements? Yes, everybody, yes. Do I have your permission to assist you in learning and discovering what you most want and need to learn in the realm of boundaries and agreements? Yeah. And I am committing right now to discovering and learning what I most need to learn and discover when it comes to agreements and how to like shift the general conversation about boundaries into an easy conversation about agreements. All right, well, I want to share my screen because, of course, the first thing that I did when I was preparing for tonight for the Big Leap Bridge call here is I Googled I Googled boundary and I got the noun, a line that marks the limits of an area, a dividing line, the eastern boundary of the wilderness. And then all these words: border, frontier, borderline, partition, dividing line, bounding line, bounds, confines, limits, outer limits, extremities, margins, edges, fringes, periphery, perimeter, circumference, rim, circuit, marge, bore, skirt. And then a limit, the second definition was a limit of a subject or sphere of activity, a community without class or political boundaries, was the quote. And when I think about boundaries, one of my first conversations I ever had about boundaries was when I don't know, it probably was yoga school. And we had a whole couple of pages in our manual that talked about boundaries, like what is a boundary and what kind of boundaries are there. And then after studying with Gay and Katie and looking at agreements rather than boundaries, I started to, when I was doing teacher trainings, the 2 pages in our manual that were talking about boundaries, I started bringing in agreements and bringing agreements to like the beginning of our teacher training and have everybody sign agreements that, time agreements and ways to show, like show up and be present. Like we agree to like presence ourselves. We agree to be here and move and breathe. And yeah, so that's yoga teacher training. And doesn't it sound very similar to breathe, move, love? So I'm trying to find which, I have so many different windows, and every time I go to Google Chrome it says, so because I want to show you the images I found. Let's see. I'm gonna do this one. Portion of screen. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Okay. I'd like to throw it out to the room while we're here. What's kind of your experience of the word boundary and keeping boundaries, and what, when you think of boundaries, what's like the type or sort of boundary that you're used to talking about or hearing about? And feel free to just unmute yourself and join the conversation, or you can type in the chat what you think boundaries are.
Hi, Crystal, it's Pamela.
Pamela.
As you read that definition, my body just went, it was like so constricting, so divisive. And until you read the definitions with all those words, limits, etc., I hadn't really grokked on that or thought about a boundary in that sense before. I had thought of it more around a little bit my space and your space kind of thing, right? But now, as you described the agreements in your yoga teacher training and what you teach at the yogis as well, it felt more freeing, right? Something we can co-create where that would naturally put together my space and your space versus just this rigid kind of a thing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pamela. Appreciate you. Opal, I see your hand raised. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah. So when I've had what came to me with that word boundary was when I like tried to set boundaries with my partner. She's tried to set boundaries with me, and like the feeling that I've always got is like, all right, if I screw up, then we're done. If you screw up, then we're done. Just like very conditional and like like have to get it right and just like walking on eggshells. Like that's the feeling I get with boundaries.
Yeah, I thought of one. Crystal, I was thinking that the word expectation came up because the difference between, like somebody said, thou shalt not be late, or else you'll irritate the teacher or be in trouble, or do you agree to be on time so we can start? And then that kind of makes it just changes the vibe into getting out the hickory stick, and I think it makes expectations clear. That I was thinking, like in a relationship, you might say, well, you've crossed, like with domestic abuse. Well, you can argue, you can raise your voices, you can pound on the table, but you can't strike your partner. That is crossing a line. And I'm not sure that that needs to be stated, but that's what I'm thinking of, a boundary, like, listen, mister, you're out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I have to tell you that, but something like that, I would think, is like a black letter law. And like I say, for me, it would go without saying that something that dramatic would be, dire consequences, not like, let's kiss and make up.
Right, like
So,
a given. It's a given
yeah,
thing.
right. Yeah. So you don't have to agree to that. So the things like, I don't know, whatever. Like, I don't go with my husband mountain biking. I go on flat surfaces. And with cement underneath, without tree roots. That's kind of we've come to getting, yeah. I agree, that if we go biking, it's not gonna be yeah. Yeah. So things like that wouldn't be, yeah.
Yeah. Nancy?
Hi, I have a little laryngitis, so I don't know if you can hear me.
I
But
can hear-
I think when the term boundaries, and coming from an alcoholic family, there were no boundaries. So I had to learn boundaries in recovery programs. But what I want to say is that I think the clarification for me comes with the questions I ask myself. What am I willing to accept and what am I not willing to accept? Whether, whether it, in a relationship, and also if I ask someone this is my boundary, then I expect that boundary to be respected from that person. So if I'm not getting that, then it's up to me to reevaluate again the boundary with that person. I don't know. Agreements, boundaries, I think to me they're the same. I don't see really, I mean, we can mingle with words and interchange words, but I think if we move from unspoken agreements to spoken agreements, in other words, I think a lot of problems, they were talking in a class yesterday, not this class, a different class at church, about disappointment. And then I thought, well, disappointment occurs when you don't tell someone you have an expectation. So if you have an expectation, you have to speak the expectation. To me, it's the same thing as an agreement. If I agree to meet you at a certain time and you keep showing up late, that just doesn't work for me. I mean, I have, values. I don't know, values come into it too. But that's what I wanted to say. So thank you for
thank
letting
you.
me share.
Thank you.
I can lower my hand.
So, Tawny wrote in the chat, Prentice Hemphill talks about healthy boundaries as being the place where I can love me and love you equally at the same time. And yeah, and I feel like I don't want y'all to think that I'm bad mouthing boundaries, because it's definitely, you know, a place in society where we are creating conversations that help us create healthy relationships. And now I found the way to share. So let me show you. These are just some of the like images that came up when I Googled boundaries. Like this sort of line, crossing a line. We're on opposite sides of the line. Some boundaries sound like, I can help, but I cannot do this for you. I understand you're upset and I'm not okay with being spoken to that way. So this is like some of the stuff that I just was like, okay, yeah, I get boundaries. It's not my job to make, it is my job to make me happy. I'm enough. But there was the context of this like sort of us versus them, or this feeling of division, this feeling of like untouchable. And when I think of agreements, and when I look at the ways that I have learned how to make agreements, it feels so much easier to set a boundary by asking for an agreement. Now, granted, when I first started trying to make agreements with my with my wife, she thought I was trying to control her. So, you know, learning how to make agreements where I'm not trying to impose some authority on somebody. Like, so being able to make an agreement where you know, where everybody wins. And now here's some images of agreements: shaking hands, you know, written down, or it's all written down and clear. So I know what you're expecting from me. You know what I'm expecting from you. We've agreed. We've signed the agreement. It's a contract we've created. You know, everybody's all smiling and, and the images for the Google search for agreements. And so I'm into the context of like easy, friendly agreements, and how to, you know, how to weave together all, you know, in all my different communities, weave together integrity through agreements. So the word agreement gives us the opportunity to have something tangible that I can write down and agree to, and collaborate and figure out, you know, those things that make it easy to make an agreement, like how we started this call. Well, what was it that made it so easy for us to agree to like have a good time tonight? There was just, you know, a lightness in our bodies. And then I pulled the cards from the integrity deck, and I just wanted to, even these images feel like playful. And I mean, even the no, this is the no card, and it's beautiful. Yeah, so I'm excited about sharing some of the stuff I found in a meeting one time. There were a bunch of Hendrix, I don't know if it was an LAT meeting. I don't even know what meeting this was, but I found some notes on agreements, and we were really talking about, okay, what are agreements? And I'll see if I can put them in the chat. So, and this might have been Katie, I was taking these notes from, like a firm bridge. That's what agreements provide. So people can connect their ideas, their feelings, their actions. Impeccable agreement keeping is the best way to create trust as you generate a track record of your reliability that your body registers directly and others do too. Agreements are an expression of consciousness in action. They build an internal skeleton that moves lightly, flexibly, and responsively with you as well as the environment. Agreements
Yeah.
are the canary in the coal mine of your life and will indicate your overall vibrancy and point to the need to investigate further. If there are agreement glitches, there will be glitches in other areas of the 4 pillars in communication and responsibility, in emotional literacy. Agreements are your web. And being able to, so like the image that I love is the spider web image for agreements. And so a spider web is everything to the spider. It's their home, it's their how they gather nourishment, it protects them, it's where they make their babies, it's everything. And so if an agreement and a set of agreements is like a spider web connecting here to there to here to there to here to there, and then the matrix of all of those agreements make these, you know, mandalas of a structure of your relationships with loved ones, your relationships with coworkers, your relationships with, you know, everyone, your relationship with me right now. So every time you make an agreement, you create another place where the web is attached, and that creates safety, and that creates that trust, and really, how many times have you like walked through a spider web and you're like, whoa, you know, they're invisible, but they're so strong, you know, and really, I was so happy that I found that list these notes that I took at some point in my studies with the Hendricks Institute, the Foundation for Conscious Living. Yeah, because agreements are like a living structure and a way for us to be able to create that foundation for all of our connections with people. All right, so do you want to play a little game? Oh, the spider web quote. Let's see. Living structure. I just was speaking about the spider.
Could you have canary in the coal mine twice? I'm just wondering if perhaps there was another description of agreements that you meant to put in there.
Yeah, no, just
okay, perfect.
Are like your web.
I'll make that in my own notes. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love it.
Here's a little bit from my notes. Yeah. Okay, so y'all want to do a little inquiry?
Sure.
So this is from the Corporate Mystic, and it's like the bare essentials of making and keeping agreements. And it's an assessment of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 statements. And so I'll put these in the chat also, or maybe should I share my screen so you can, might be easier to share. Let me share my screen again. Can you see the words here?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think the way to sort of do this checklist assessment is to maybe on a scale of 1 to 5, 0 being like, meh, I don't really do that. I don't really think about that ever. To 5, like, yeah, wahoo, I'm really well versed or skilled, or like I do that a lot. So I'll just read this. Use the following list to explore which agreement skills you have integrated and to identify areas in which to bring your conscious awareness. A central skill is to connect your sense of aliveness with your integrity around agreements and notice your body sensations as you explore these statements and in relationship when you keep agreements and when you do something else. So I'll read it and highlight it here, and then you can sort of, maybe I'll number them too, so you don't have to write them down. I know that keeping agreements increases aliveness rather than seeing agreements as the world or someone making me do something. I'm just going to read them once. So then you can write down 1 to 5. Or if you don't feel like writing them down and you want to like hold your hand up with like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Can you send this to us so that we have it to use?
Yeah. I'll see how many. You can't like post a big chunk of words like this in the chart. So I mean in the chat. So I'll
No, not, I mean, like email it for future
Yeah.
use.
yeah. Be happy to. Then you can check in like a month after keeping clear agreements. Okay, so
And for just now, I took a screenshot and posted the screenshot in the chat. If you click on it, it might show up a little more clearly.
thank you so much. All right, so that was number 1. Number 2, I know how to make clear agreements with others. Number 3, I know how to select agreements I do not want to make. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we're doing a little inquiry where we're going through these statements and giving yourself a range of 1 to 5 or 0 to 5. 0 being like, I don't do this at all, to 5, like I feel really alive around this particular skill. I know how to see when an agreement is necessary and how to proactively create agreements that I want to make. Number 5, I know how to make agreements that are important to me, that I feel my body align with. Number 6, I do not make agreements that I don't want to make. I notice jangles in my body when presented with agreements I don't want. Number 7, I enter into agreements initiated by others clearly and consciously. Number 8, I keep the agreements I make. Number 9, I can be counted on to do what I say I will do. 10, I can be counted on it. I can be counted on not to do what I say I will not do. "11, I know how to handle instances when I break agreements. 12, I know how to handle instances when others break agreements with me. 13, I know how to change agreements that are not working. 14, I proactively create agreements that I want to make. 15, others keep their agreements with me, and if they don't, I know how to take 100% responsibility for creating and clearing up the situation. And 16, I am able to clearly formulate agreements and write them down. Out of mind and on paper frees up my creative energy. All right. So which one of these is kind of lower on the scale for everybody? Like, look at the one that you scored the lowest on, and then put the number of that agreement in the chat. Or it's not an agreement. It's, I guess these are kind of like practices.
Okay.
Okay, there. I just put them all in the chat.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
16, writing agreements down. 1,
Mm-hmm.
knowing how agreements keep your aliveness. 12, knowing how to handle when someone breaks an agreement. Knowing how to make agreements, period. Knowing how to change agreements. Yeah, thank you everybody for participating. The next part of our time together, this is from it's from Audrey. So Audrey and I were working together on a personal death awareness course that we were putting together. And the very first thing that Audrey sent me was this set of agreements, this basic collaboration agreements. And I have gotten so much value out of this. Thank you, Audrey, if you're ever watching this, for teaching me how very easily to, collaborate with somebody from the very beginning, creating that structure before we even talk about anything or do anything or have a meeting or, we just basically decided that we wanted to collaborate, that we wanted to create this personal death awareness course together. And these are some of the agreements that we both agreed to. Integrity, the 4 pillars: conscious communication, emotional literacy, impeccable agreements, 100% responsibility, turning towards and being present with one another, conscious, timely beginnings and endings in calls and meetings, and responding to requests within 48 hours unless more urgent request is made. Oh my gosh, this one has changed everything. When I'm the program director at the massage school here in Long Beach, and when I would like email all the faculty, there'd be 1 or 2 that would just never reply. And so I put a set of these agreements together that fit our context for the massage school, and I was so happy that everybody agreed to reply to requests within 24 hours is what I put in the agreement, because if I need grades, attendance, if I need an update on how a class is going. So yeah, this one was a really good one that I've reused, repurposed. The assumption of generosity with the vision of mutual success. I agree to share and cultivate new ideas as they arise. I agree to easy conversations around the logistics, money, time, structure, context. This one also has been a really great agreement to make with all of my colleagues. Like I'm going to be talking about money with people. I want to be talking about money in an easily friendly way. I agree to leading with appreciation to fortify our connection on our co-creation. So like, first thing, I appreciate you so much for being here and joining me and being willing to play and talk about agreements. I agree to apply a growth mindset to any problem or potential. I agree to clear and kept agreements. So like just agreeing to make and keep agreements is an agreement. And so this could be a very foundational one that might, help when someone's thinking of an agreement as an authority, like I am the authority. No, we're just collaborating. We're creating our home together. I agree to listening for accuracy, mutual creativity, and for the essential communication. This one was also very, very helpful for me. I agree to minimal interrupting, allowing the complete arc of communication to resonate. I'm kind of a like, kind of a go-go person. And so I found myself before this interrupting people more than I probably realized. And then just being in this agreement with Audrey, I was opening up my relationships to find that patience and to let people finish their own sentences and to, let what someone's saying to me land. And then I can be touched by what someone is saying. I can be affected by that and then respond. I agree to using our collaboration as living laboratory for discoveries. And I agree to monthly review renewal of our agreements for thriving as teammates. So thank you, Audrey. I have referred back to this for yoga school, for the massage school, for my marriage, for working with clients. It's yeah, and it's something that I invite you all to experiment with. Yeah, Opal.
Yeah, well, first I want to appreciate just like the thoroughness of this list. It really like covers all the bases. And I'm curious like how this would go over in like a more, for example, like corporate space, as opposed to like a massage school or yoga studio where people might have less familiarity with like generosity or conscious agreements, or just like, because like I found myself coming in from that perspective and being like, well, what does that mean? Like just like unpacking like the 4 pillars in the first bullet, for example, I think which could be done by someone, you know, outside of who knows that environment, who works in that environment every day. But that's just something I wanted to flag as, oh yeah, like that, like we as like Hendrix alumni kind of have our own language, and that while helpful to us and people who know the terms, it could be like, well, what is this? What are you trying to do to me?
Yeah, that's interesting that you brought that up, because I also brought this to the marketing firm that I project management at, and maybe they're like a weird marketing firm, so so they don't mind using language like using your genius. You know, they actually have sort of an agreement with all of us that they only want us working in our genius, like whatever our tasks are, it's got to be in our genius kind of thing. So they've read The Big Leap, the CEO and the and
Very
the
heartwarming.
managers. Yeah. So I don't know the answer. If there was a question about like, how do I make this language fit into corporate language? And
Yeah, or just like clarity of like, what does it look like to assume generosity? Like, what does that mean? Like, when I took that in, for example, the meaning I made was that, oh, let's just assume, like, I think what was helpful was to like assume what's the opposite of generosity. And I was like, oh, scarcity, coming from scarcity. Because when I'm trying to make agreements or make requests of people from a place of scarcity, then I'm trying to like protect myself and protect them from taking too much from me. And if that's where I start, then we're not going to go anywhere productive together.
right, yeah, like from that place of lack, or from that place of like not enough. So yeah, the assumption of there is plenty for all. Yeah. I don't speak corporate like, I don't know if I don't know if I even have a suit or anything like that anymore. But I would love a translation if anybody's interested in taking this and translating it into, you know, into the language where people are comfortable using the word boundary.
Look at this.
Like a lot more people are comfortable using the word boundary, I have found. That's like common lingo, right? That's when I talk about agreements, people are kind of like, it catches the attention. All right. So switching gears, what to do if I was late to my call with Audrey? Or what if Audrey was late with her call with me? What if we broke one of these agreements? What if yeah, what if I started to interrupt again? And oh, actually, you know what? I think this this agreement checklist, I think this is from our leadership and transformation manual. I did the 2-year leadership and transformation program with Katie, and that's, I think, where this comes from. Yeah, because it has the 3-2B. This is from the Corporate Mystic, how to handle broken agreements.
Corporate Mystic.
Or maybe it's from the Hendrix former corporate training. That's what it's from. Yeah. And did you have a question, Todd? I'd love to.
Oh, well, yeah, this is you're touching right on the area where I would be most challenged. I think I'm good at making agreements and generous listening, and just a natural tendency toward looking at win-wins and that kind of thing. But when they're broken, that's when I have the fear rise, because of the fear of conflict. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if you could maybe give an example. I don't know. Are we just going
Yeah.
1 hour tonight till
Yeah.
7?
Yes.
Okay. Is there going to be a follow-up, like with more like actually how to or training conversations, examples? That's what I would be curious about, how to handle these broken.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Do y'all want to go into breakout rooms and try this, like pretend that someone broke an agreement with you?
Oh, I'm kind of, um,
I don't think I want to do that right now. It's too late in my day. It's
Yeah.
been a long day for me to try and do emotional processing, but I thought you might have some pointers, but
yeah.
Honestly, it's way easier than you would imagine.
Okay.
Like you basically say, if you broke the agreement,
That I'm easy at. I can
I-
take ownership like that. It's the
yeah,
other way around.
I realize I broke the agreement that we had. Do you have any feelings about that?
Right.
Oh,
So then the inverse would be, you broke our time agreement and you were 10 minutes late. I feel angry that you were 10 minutes late. Would you like to make a new agreement so that you're able to be on time? Is there another time that works better for you? Or are you willing to recommit to beginning and ending our meetings on time?
I notice as soon as I say to someone, I feel angry that you weren't on time or that you broke our agreement, that's the kissing cousin to that is fear.
It's terrifying to start sharing your feelings, but
Well,
it's
especially
so
anger, because anger
good
is usually
when
not.
when people around you start getting used to you sharing your feelings.
Yeah.
Because at first it's like uncomfortable for the people around you to be like, oh man, she's angry right now.
Yeah.
But then they like that way better than when I would hold my anger in and hold my anger in and hold my anger in and then blow up and have my anger come out sideways. So that's a whole nother practice in emotional literacy, is being able to just make it no big deal that you're angry about something.
So I feel angry that you were late, or I feel angry that you broke the agreement. And then you follow that up with, do you want to, what was your statement? Do you want to,
do you want to keep meeting at this time, or do you want to can we recommit to ending our meetings on time and beginning them on time? Or do you want to make a new agreement? Or I'm no longer willing to meet with you. Because
Right,
you've been late 3 times, and that to me means you don't want to meet with me. So bye-bye. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, so this part of it seems for me to be more valuable.
Yeah.
How to have a conversation
right.
about agreements rather than just a list.
Me too.
In other words, practicing how to come about to say, for example, I'm very timely, so I never have that issue. I could show up 15 minutes early.
Yeah.
And so I guess for me to keep agreements would mean not only respecting me, I go back to that respecting me and respecting the other person. So I really think that learning to practice and hear healthy communication around agreements is valuable to me. And I just wanted to say that because when you were talking and then Todd was going back and asking you, how do you language? It's about the languaging is what I'm hearing. The languaging is significant.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say too. I want to know the how to, the language, the words, etc.
Right. Because yeah, sorry, Todd, I was, yeah, because without going into, without pointing fingers and blaming, making sure the shift is, okay, I need to talk about, I'm angry right now.
Yeah.
And then go from there. Because, those kind of conversations are not usually comfortable for most people. But if you're coming from a place of love and integrity, and you're not shooting it out like, oh, you know, reactive. Um, anyway, that's what I wanted to say. The languaging, that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, and being able to, I think at the heart of all of this work is commitment. So that like the ultimate commitment that I keep coming back to is easy friendly. I commit to easy friendly living. And
Nice.
and if I'm committed to easy friendly living, then every conversation I have, even this 10-second sweaty conversation, 10-minute sweaty conversations, I think could that be easy? Potentially. Could it be easy to, you know, tell my friend that I feel angry? Sure, why not? I told my boss I feel angry. I was like, man, I love having a boss I can say I feel angry too.
You did that?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
And that was that boss someone trained in this sort of thing?
To an extent. Yeah, they've done some, and they've been hanging out with me since I've been doing this, so it's contagious.
By osmosis, an example.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have done a couple trainings. Yeah. Couple trainings and no Katie too. So that
Yeah,
I'm lucky.
yeah.
I get to, I surround myself with people that want to live an easy, friendly life and have integrity and you know what? It's backfired on me before where I told somebody I broke an agreement. I feel really silly. I broke our agreement. Do you have any feelings about that? And they were like so upset and didn't talk to me for like a couple months. And I felt
Jeez.
terrible, but
Wow.
That's going to an extreme.
they thought that I was like doing something else, they thought that I was like having some kind of different or like a
Manipulation or something?
I don't know what they really thought. I wasn't in their head, but they were going through their own thing and I just gave them space to go through their own thing and I was with myself going through my thing over here and then we reconnected and it's like nothing ever happened,
Yeah.
And we have a stronger, I guess, sense of integrity with
Yeah, well, for me, that
Yeah.
comes down to me loving myself and being present with myself enough to where I'm okay that they go away for 2 months. And I'm okay with me and all those little frightened parts of me. So then when I do that, then okay, I can give them their space and everything's fine and it's all good. But it's a matter of me managing and loving the reactions that come up in me.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Beautiful.
Opal.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I've shared some resources that have been really helpful for me in the chat. One of them is a book that Gay Hendricks wrote that's very, very much like a how-to language all of this, but it's like lesser known for some reason. It's called The 10-Second Miracle by Gay Hendricks. I highly recommend checking that one out if y'all haven't already. And if you're looking for one-on-one like practice with this kind of stuff, or just like very like, because there's so many types of situations. A coach, the coach that I've been working with, who's Hendricks trained, Ed Farragon, at edfarragon.com, I found to be very helpful and good at this. So I just wanted to share those resources for anyone interested.
Thank you so much.
You say Ed's been helping you with this very sort of thing?
Yeah, like just very complex relationship stuff. Yeah, he studied with the Hendricks and also in the LAT program, just like you, Crystal.
Yeah.
So
Right.
but he's made a whole business out of just doing that kind of stuff for people, like the Hendricks-based trauma and communication stuff. So
Yeah.
highly recommend him.
Yeah, and I love talking about this stuff. I'm sure Audrey would be willing to support you in like figuring out how to be authentic in your communicating about creating agreements and cleaning up agreements that are broken.
It's funny, I just sent Audrey an email last night that I want to work with her. I live about 90 miles from her. I'm like hanging on my fingernails. I hope she gets back to me. I hope she has time to see me. I hope she'll work with me.
Yeah, it's been really helpful to be able to just like have a go-to for
Oh
a
yeah.
broken agreement, you know? You broke our agreement. I have this and this and this feeling about it. Do you want to make some new agreements? It can be that simple. I want to make an agreement. Are you available to make an agreement with me?
I
You know
like
what?
that. That's a
Yeah,
nice feeling to it.
you know what?
Deborah?
You know what? My comment is just that, do you want to make a new agreement? Because in my mind, I give out chances, invisible chances. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh, something came up. And then, I just act like I understand. And then, like you say, it will come out sideways because by the third time, you can go to hell, you know? But you don't have any agreement or nothing. So it makes it cleaner, I think, having the official agreement in place that it puts, like you said, like a firm bridge. It's not some wishy-washy, like Judge Judy. Oh, that's a good excuse, or that's a good reason, or
Right.
I mean, there are things that come up that are truly emergencies, but not often,
Right.
like just being flaky.
And I guess the last thing I'll leave you with is this powerful practice of, does somebody want to read that to me because it's backwards?
I make clear, direct requests that include a by when instead of airing generalized complaints. How can I make a conscious agreement here? Mhm.
Ooh.
So this one has changed everything, especially in my project management work. I'm like, okay, by when?
Yeah.
I want you to
Mhm.
by. So that'll be the little cherry on top of the agreements, and the by when is everything. It's changed everything, makes everything so much easier. But then there's the agreement. By
Mhm.
when, and then someone, if they don't do it by then that's a broken agreement. You can be like,
Right.
well, you said you're going to do this by this day and you didn't. I feel bummed out that you didn't complete, but would you like to make a new agreement?
Nice. Yeah. I
I
don't
would
really have
love it.
people breaking agreements with me in my life. I don't really have that phenomenon.
Yeah.
But when I do, my favorite line that you have here is, "I want to make an agreement. Do you want to make an agreement with me?" It's like such a tender invitation,
Yeah.
so friendly. It's an
Yeah.
open.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you all for agreeing to be with me for this hour. Our time agreement is completing now. I did see Nancy raise your hand a little bit. Would you have like a
Just a real, I was thinking that probably the most important agreements are the ones we make with ourselves.
Yeah, and those are our commitments.
Okay.
I commit to living an easy, friendly life.
I like
Okay.
that.
I like that.
I commit to
love that.
creating easy agreements with everyone that I surround myself with.
I heard Katie say
I
one the
love
other
it.
day.
I love it.
Katie said, I commit to all my learning and growing being friendly."
Nice.
Yeah.
It's like an
Mm,
internal agreement. I commit that my
mm,
learning and growing be friendly, done in friendly ways. I like
mhm.
that because I can get real hard with my inner growth, like
Yeah.
stop trying too
Yeah.
hard.
Appreciate you, Crystal, so much for doing this.
Thank
It's a
you.
great, it's a
Thank
great,
you.
it is. It's a great start for some more inquiry, and an invitation to look at my integrity deck again. And
Yeah.
and yes, and then maybe work on that in the next week. Pick a card, any card, right?
Just practice.
And just
Takes
practice.
much work. And that's my first time I ever took a
Yeah.
training with Katie. I was like, well, how do I do this? And she was like, just practice. And
Just
how am I
practice.
going to remember? You won't. So just
Yeah.
practice until it becomes second nature.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that the permission to not remember. Ooh, I like that.
Being
It's
perfect.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say some appreciations too. I appreciate the comment, Pamela, that you just made and that you opened the door to that for me. Crystal, I appreciate your candor and you bringing on. I also the list was helpful, but then it was like, yeah, but what do I do when it? Yeah. So I appreciate that you offered a couple of very simple phrases, and I also appreciate that the gentleman. Let's see,
Opal.
Opal. Is that your name, Opal?
Yeah, that's my name.
That's beautiful. My birthstone is opal. I love opals.
Oh,
So Opal, I appreciate that you offered up the 10-second miracle. You're the second person I've heard now in a couple of months say that. So I'm ordering that with an agreement with myself. I'm ordering that within 48 hours.
all right.
And then you can see the aliveness, how fluffed up you feel when you
Yeah.
keep those commitments and agreements. All right, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Crystal.
everybody.
Thank you so
Ciao.
much for being here,
Mwah.
Julia. Thank you
Yeah.
It was
for
great.
help- for
Bye.
helping me make agreements for and when I was a little baby LAT.
Yes, wonderful.
Bye.
Bye.